The Crypt interviews in association with the Forever Young 80s Music Festival.
You're listening to The Crypt, and my very special guest on the show today was the star of the movie Buddy's Song, and he had a huge hit with the one and only both in the UK and in the States, and that is of course Mr. Chesney Hawkes. So thank you so much for your time today, Chesney.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on, Rita.
Well, of course, you got your gift of music from your dad, who was quite the big star himself in the 60s.
Yes, a little bit of a pop star, my old man. he was in a band called the Tremolos. So, I kind of grew up with music around me quite a lot. So, my brother and sister and I were never really going to become accountants or anything, With very much music all the way.
The Tremolos had one of my favourite songs, Here Comes My Baby. I absolutely love that song.
Me too. I actually, funnily enough, on a lot of my acoustic shows, I play that song. Because it's one of those songs that always gets people up. It's got that kind of that feel to it that just I don't know. It makes people want to stand up and clap.
Dance. Yeah, exactly.
And also, I mean, it's the same for a lot of Tremolo songs. They had this ability to kind of give you a party mood instantly, I mean, even in the records themselves, if you listen, they always put aside what they would call like the party track, and so in the background there's all this, well, hey,
yeah, gets you going straight away.
Yeah, exactly. Even on the ballads.
But then the story of how you started, I think, is absolutely brilliant. So it involved a 12-week deadline, 4 wisdom teeth, a dog called Dizzy, and a boy called Cal. So can you share that story with listeners, please?
That's great. I was 17, and I had been playing piano in kind of, pubs and, all around the area that I lived in, pubs, wine bars, weddings, wherever they'd have me. That's kind of how I learnt my craft. And so at one point, just as the summer started and I'd left school, it was earlier than that, 16. I left school at 16 and my dad said to me, what do you want to do now? Are you going to go to college? And I was just like, no, I want to be a musician, Dad. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, I tell you what, I'll give you to the end of the summer. And if you're not earning money by the end of the summer, then you're going to have to go to college or something, So I took that mantle on and went off and found some jobs, and as I said, playing in these, pubs and wherever they'd have me. And by the end of the summer, I was doing all right. I was earning my keep and able to kind of like, pay my way. And so that was it. He said, okay, all right. And so just in the middle of all that, I had my wisdom teeth out. This is a long story, isn't it? You did bring in all the elements. I've got to do it now, haven't I?
It's just too funny not to tell the whole story.
Yeah. Well, I may as well. I've started, so I'll finish. So, I had my wisdom teeth out in the middle of all that, and I remember waking up, and I had all this kind of cotton wool in my mouth, and my parents were there in the room, and right in the corner of the room there's this little TV, and Roger Daltrey was on TV, on GMTV or something like that, kind of appealing for a young kid that could possibly play his son in a film. And so, I was listening, and I remember saying to my dad, because I had a mouthful of cotton wool, I was like, I want to do that. So my dad was like, yeah, all right, that sounds like a good plan. So literally a couple of weeks later, I found myself, a big audition. I sung a couple of songs and then got called back, and then did a little bit of reading for the film, and then got called back, and I kept getting called back and everything, and it got down to me and this one other guy called Cal.
Yes.
So there's my next element. I think that's my last element from you, isn't it? And so it was just me and him doing a screen test, and which I went along to Bray Studios in Berkshire, I guess it is, where the Who were rehearsing, and I did this screen test with Roger where he had to slap me across the face, which was quite interesting, being hit by a rock star.
Your claim to fame.
Yeah, exactly. Just an everyday occurrence, for a 17-year-old kid. And again, I ended up getting the part. So there you go. That's how I got my big break.
Excellent.
How about that?
Well, I'd imagine it was quite daunting being thrown into stardom so quickly at such a young age.
Yes, I guess so. It's funny because really my life growing up was very much kind of in and around rock and roll. You know, my dad, as I said, was
Yeah.
in a famous band, and I was used to kind of being around famous people, and and also kind of being around gigs. I'd be backstage with Dad, and my mum was also an actress. So I kind of grew up with it in a way. So it didn't seem completely unnatural
Yeah.
and weird, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I'd been around it. But having said that, it was crazy.
Yeah.
One minute I was playing in the Wells pub in Ascot, and the next minute I was playing Wembley Arena. So it was pretty nuts.
Just thinking back to like the Bible for every teenager then was smash hits. So like when you got on the cover of that, were you like, oh, that's it, I've made it now?
I was never really kind of into like that kind of pop stardom. I was always just a musician, even from a very young age. I played guitar and piano and wrote songs, So the smash hits wasn't my Bible as much as like The Enemy and stuff like that was more my Bible. I know it sounds crazy coming from what people would perceive from me, but that's really what I was into. I mean, very grateful to be on the cover of Smash Hits, and that was amazing. But for me, I made it. I thought I'd made it once I was on Top of the Pops. That was my big thing. So. But I mean, great to be on the cover of these magazines and everything. But it really, that as growing up, that wasn't my kind of, what I was into. I was more into like, listening to bands, and I was into U2 and Prince and, and Elvis Costello and Stevie Wonder and all that kind of stuff. So,
I believe Jason Donovan kind of took you under his wing then during that
time. Jason had been. He was already a big pop star by the time I'd made it. I guess his first record was in '88, and I didn't come along till '91. So yeah, in a way, obviously I was compared to him because I guess that pretty boy looks, blonde floppy hair,
the long locks.
Yeah, exactly. So we became mates right early on, Jason and I, and we're still good mates. We get together now and again, and so yeah, I do for him and the Bros Boys. Actually, they were very very nice to me in those days because it was the same kind of thing. They had made it a couple of years before me, and when I came along, I felt like the baby brother of the gang. You know what I mean?
Speaking of Bros there, I just think it's so crazy when you think back to when they came out and now to look at them in all these like gangster movies, and they went down a totally different road to where you thought they would have went.
Yeah, I guess Luke obviously is the actor, and he's that kind of like tough guy, kind of Jason Statham kind of action hero kind of actor, and and it suits him well. I mean, Matt's still performing in Vegas, and I think he still has that kind of pretty boy looks, whereas Luke's gone down that kind of slightly more manly, tough guy look, if you know what I mean. But it suits them. If you know them personality wise, I think that suits them.
Well then, of course, you do the whole kind of retro festival scene as well. So I'd seen you last year at the Rewind Festival, which was fantastic. And you did play with Nick Kershaw, which he actually wrote The One and Only.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that was a special time, actually. I remember that. As it's for me. I was a huge Nick Kershaw fan as a child, as a teenager. Human Racing was very influential for me. I always loved him, and so to get the chance to work with him, when I was 18 was an incredible thing. And so Nick and I have been mates ever since. I've actually repaid the favor and written some songs with him for some of his albums, and we're still writing together now. I'm making a new record now, and Nick's very much involved. So to get on stage with him at that Rewind gig that you were at was amazing. He came, I did the One and Only with him, obviously, and then I stayed on stage with him, and I think I sung a little bit of Wouldn't It Be Good with him, which was absolutely like dream come true. It was like, if you'd have told a 14, 15-year-old Chesney that one day he'd be performing in front of 25,000 people singing Wouldn't It Be Good with Nick Kershaw, I would have told you were mental.
Amazing. And you were fantastic. Well, he's great, so he is, Nick. He's fantastic. And then
he's a national treasure.
But it's absolutely crazy. The minute that intro started to The One and Only, the crowd went lunatic. I think all of us were like 10 and 11-year-olds again in the crowd, just going crazy.
Yeah, oh, that's great. It's amazing to me the reaction I still get from playing that song. And I always say that I feel like I've kind of given up ownership of that record. It's one of those things where everybody has a connection to certain music in their lives, and it takes them back to, as you say, back to when you were 11 or back to when you had your first kiss or something like or whatever, and that's the beauty of what we do as musicians is that, we can affect people. And, I think that I look at that record as it kind of has a life of its own, if you know what I mean. It's really like it's a song with wings, and, even without me, went off and kind of made its own life without me, if you know what I mean. So it's amazing to see and feel that energy as soon as I play the intro to that song, and you can see it just picks up, and people just love it, which I'm very, very grateful for. It's amazing.
Well, my daughter was with me. She's 13 and she's really, really angry today because she had to go to school and she couldn't talk to Chesney Hawkes.
Oh, bless her heart. Well, you have to send my love to her, won't you?
I will, of course. Well, you mentioned there about doing a new album. So kind of where are ye at with that?
It's really fun, this project. I haven't been this excited about a new album for a long time. I'm working with a guy called Jake Gosling, who's my producer for the album, and he discovered Ed Sheeran and wrote and produced his whole first album, and he still works with Ed, and he's a very A-list producer now. He works with One Direction and Sam Smith and all these Paloma Faith and all these amazing artists. Jack Savoretti, he produced his last album. He worked with Dua Lipa. I mean, he's an A-list guy. So it's with my kind of kind of standard songwriting stuff that I've always been, like that kind of pop sensibility, pop songwriting that I've always done, and Jake's kind of modern touch of production. It's actually really turning into a great album, so I'm really excited, and we're closing in on it. So I think maybe early next year we'll look at putting something out, but certainly a single. So yeah, very exciting times.
Oh, excellent! You'll have to send them on to me when you release them.
Absolutely, yeah. That will happen for sure.
Brilliant. Well, before I let you go, have you got any gigs coming up in the UK or that you'd like to mention?
Oh, goodness. Yes is the answer. If I could tell you, I could open up my website. But I guess really, if anyone's interested in coming to see me, just go to chesneyhawkes.com, and it's all on there. I mean, I've just taken the whole of the August off, which was lovely. But now I'm heading back over to the UK to do some gigs now. So if you're interested, go chesneyhawkes.com. It's all there.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Well, Chesney, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, and send a big hug to your daughter.
I will, and best of luck with the album.
Thank you so much. Bye, Rita.
Thank you, Chesney.